This is Real Sports Talk, Rumack and the Greek, featuring Billy the Greek and Stormin Norman Rumack. Brought to you by the good people at Cosa and Carpets for Life.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Billy George Atsakis, the Greek, and me, Stormin Norm Rumack, and our esteemed producer, Jordan LaRoche. We're glad to have you with us. We're working remotely. And then next week and on, we'll be back at the Bottom Line Restaurant, 22 Front Street West. Get a chance to stop in, please do so. Right in the heart of all the sports action nearby. 30-second, maybe a minute, 90-second walk from Union Station. How's that, depending on your speed? You've been working out like Billy has been. So anyways, we got lots to talk about over the next 45 minutes or so. And, of course, we'll get into the Leafs, the NHL, the NFL. Looks like we're going to have a stud school of quarterbacks in the NFL playoffs, especially in the NFC, much to the pleasure of Mr. Billy George Atsakis to join his Dallas Cowboys for the fray. So we'll talk about that. We got a little bit on the NBA. And, we got a whole bunch of things to talk about. And, of course, we got great sponsors like Cosa, Standardbred Horse Racing folks of Ontario, Southern Ontario, and Nick, the King of Carpets. So we're well set for another, we think, will be enjoyable show. Isn't that right, Billy?
I don't have much to add to that. That was as good as probably as good as you've ever delivered an introduction, man, in our time together, man. You deserve another couple of sentences. Go ahead. What do you want to start on? Obviously, okay. As you said, a lot going on. The thing that stuck out with me, the most over the weekend was the premature eulogy of three people, of Bill Belichick, that rascal, still alive. We had Tom Brady for dead earlier in the year. And Aaron Rodgers was there was whispers of retirement and turning Green Bay over to the backup, Jordan Love. So those are the three things right off the top. You can't shake these guys, Rumack. As much as we want to just turn the chapter, right? These guys just don't want to go away. And again, looking forward to playoff matchups. Still a lot up for grabs in week 18. And as a Cowboy guy, I'm starting to get nervous, and it's probably a couple weeks away from kickoff in terms of playoff football.
Yeah, that's a nice segue, Billy, because I was going to ask you, as a Cowboys fan, and let's say, okay, overall, offense, defense, etc., let's say for now they're the best team in the NFC, but never mind yourself as a Cowboys fan. How do you think the team from Dak on down and coaching staff, how would they feel if however it works out at some point, they draw Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady? How do you think they'd feel going into a game like that?
You know what? It's funny. There's a parallel to be made, and it's as follows: that the Dallas Cowboys and their history and their fan base and where the organization is akin to where the Leafs kind of are in terms of playoff ineptitudes, in terms of long history of heartbreak when you go back to 92, 93, and 95. Last Super Bowl run. As a long-suffering Cowboy fan, there's been a lot of lean years, and there hasn't been that sixth Lombardi in Jerry's world and being showcased. So it's been a long run, and again, we get nervous. Not necessarily when it comes to more than likely playing Tampa Bay, but we just get nervous of the ghosts in the room. We get nervous of the ghost of Brady, the ghost of Dak, all the things that have haunted Cowboy football. Much like Leaf fans, they're pretty much the exact same spot, I would say. Arguably the most talented team on paper, but shy on playoff success. Yeah.
So between the two of them, of course, with Brady, what is it, 6 Super Bowls on his resume already? Okay, if I got that right. And so he's always fired up. But like you said, you listen to Aaron Rodgers in the post-game press conference, it's like he's taking all this stuff personally. It's like he's out to show the world, whoever doubted him, especially when the Packers got off the slow start, is like, yeah, well, we'll see. And he was saying that a few weeks ago. Do you think is Aaron Rodgers fired up? Is he more dangerous than Aaron Rodgers? I mean, I'm sure he's always fired up, but is he more dangerous now because he seems to be on a mission?
not only the mission's got a lot to do with some of the stuff that's happened off the field too. Obviously, came under fire and much criticism for his take on the COVID and the COVID situation. I don't know, he was talking about getting his injections. I don't know, the Donald Trump injections, to whatever he was talking about. Obviously, caught a lot of slack. He's caught a lot of slack for his politics and his anti-woke speech from a segment of the population. So yeah, it's personal. But here's the problem, man. It doesn't matter if it's personal or not. He's still, when he looks out there, there's no Devontae Adams. There's not a lot of thoroughbred offensive weapons on that Green Bay team. And I can't see Rodgers. I couldn't see Rodgers or Brady beating a combination of San Francisco, Philadelphia, and Dallas, winning 2 games against those 3 teams. I don't see either club doing it. Is in a one-off, can they win 1 game? Absolutely. But I don't see Tampa Bay beating San Francisco. No way in hell. I don't see them beating Philadelphia. And frankly, I think they're in over their heads with Dallas. All you'd have to do is if that game was played tomorrow, Dallas would open up as a favorite in Tampa Bay or in Green Bay by far against Green Bay. So it's a nice story. They never die, but for them to either of those guys to hoist a Lombardi one more time, and for Rodgers it's only been once, it's 10-1 at best, 15-1 at best for either of those guys to win a championship or represent the NFC going into the Super Bowl. No chance.
Okay. So fair enough. So, but with that in mind, let's flick back a year, because I don't mean this as a shot. I just mean, I don't think you were thinking, or I was thinking, we were talking about the great quarterbacks going to last year's playoffs, and Stafford wasn't high on your list. So I'm just saying, or I'm just wondering, considering and he has, obviously, the Rams, that is, had a great defense and great weapons on offense. But again, we weren't looking at them as a favorite. It's like, oh, they're okay, but, right? There were so many teams that looked better, especially at quarterbacking spot. So is there any parallel there, or were the Rams just too loaded on defense and offense to make a parallel with what's coming up against Dallas now?
The Rams, if you look at the Rams roster last year, it was star-studded. And they went all in. Basically, if you look at this whole season in terms of Beckham, in terms of some of the other guys that brought, they went all in, and they're paying the price for it now. A couple of injuries and what have you, and you see how what the price to pay was for that Super Bowl run. There's no parallel there between the Rams. And as a matter of fact, Green Bay's gone the other direction. Instead of going all in, they've practically, ridden Rodgers on their back. Like, they didn't go out and get him any help. They didn't draft a wide receiver. They didn't go out and get anybody via trade, as you see Dallas Hilton's, and they've just left Rodgers to fend for himself for the entirety of the season. So not only is he mad, for him it's a different kind of story, because usually Green Bay comes into the playoffs as favorites, as dangerous. Now they're coming in with a chip on their shoulder and underdogs. And again, who knows? But I just can't see. I can't see that club winning 3 games against the clubs. I can't see it in NFC. And let's hurry up, Norm, because really I don't want to be doing this today. I got a win 4 in mind. I want to get out to Mohawk, so speed it up. Don't talk that much. Let's go to the AFC. Let's get this damn show over with, man. I gotta get in the car and get 4th race. I got a big tip.
I got you. So I'll throw you one AFC twist, and to your credit, you've mentioned it. The Chargers are looking really good. And how, if you're the Bills or the Chiefs, for example, let's highlight them, how nervous, worried would you be about, as you mentioned, the Chargers had a lot of injuries, facing the Chargers in a showdown?
You'd be nervous when you're talking about the AFC and you're talking about 1 through 6. You can make a case, again, Jacksonville being the outlier. Unbelievable what's happened in Jacksonville over the course of the last 5 weeks. But to me, there's 7 teams that are vying for that are legitimate contenders to vie for a championship, and the Chargers are 6th or 7th in my estimation. So again, but for Buffalo, we've got a lot of Buffalo people that watch. For Buffalo, the most important thing, and there he is, Little Normie. I'm going to change his name. It's Manuso, but I'm going to call him Little Normie from now on. Like, Normie, hey buddy, yeah, a boy. Hey, are you a little vampire? Look at you, buddy. Right?
Hey, a fellow vampire should give you a bite right on the neck.
Look at this little guy, man. He gets jealous, man. Ignores me all day, but whenever I'm on the phone, he'll run and jump around and look at this. These are weird animals, eh? You a dog lover?
Yeah, I had a Dachshund when I was a kid for 13 years. It was great.
Yeah. Are you
Oh,
allowed
yeah.
to have dogs in your apartment?
Well, no, not at present, but in the building where I do security, there's lots of dogs, so they're all good to me. We understand each other. I give them a little neck massage, a little back scratch, and they always come over to see me, and I always ask them if they'd like to take the rest of my shift.
Do you have a little bag of treats?
Oh, actually, the pet owners always give me a few little biscuits to toss their way. So, but they're all good dogs, so it's a lot of fun having those.
Are the owners of your place of employment? Do they realize you're a bit of a celebrity, or do they just know you as the?
Yeah, well, the men, most of the fellas, or they're because they're elderly folks, they're up around 78. Most of them or their kids certainly know me. The guys do, that is. And then actually, they did a profile. They do a quarterly newsletter for the residents, and they profiled me, going way back to coming out of Syracuse and what I did in my career. And I did some stuff to help Canadians who served in Vietnam with the U.S. military when they didn't get their benefits from the VA. So they read about that, and I got quite a nice response. So yeah, now they know me quite well. I've been there 2.5 years. So yeah, it's a good situation.
That's awesome. Like if you're in that area, and again, give your address so people can stop by and wave at you. Maybe
that's I don't know in the security business. It's like I'm grateful.
Did you take a security course?
Yeah, well, you have to get not a course. Well, you take a course, but you have to get a license. You have to be licensed to do security guard work. It's a provincial license. Yeah. So you take a course for a week. And then you write. It's kind of like the same place where you do your driver's test, right? You write it up there, up in Downsview, right? And then if they make it reasonably reasonable to pass. They'll say 65%. I mean, you have to study, but the main thing is, look, it's like every other job, Billy.
All right, okay. Hypothetically, if I wanted to hire you, okay, so you're there, the security question. Say you see a guy of my caliber, man. He's got his hat down. He's trying to sneak in your building. Well, what do you do, Rumack, at that time? How do you respond?
Well, you can't really sneak into the building because you need a fob. You can get into, you can't even get into the garage or the front. You'd need a fob, or the security would have to be
I need a fob. I just wait for somebody to open the door and act like I live there behind them. You wouldn't even catch me. I'd be upstairs causing commotion. You'd be taking a nap downstairs, man. They'll fire you within 5 minutes or 5 days at most.
Well, I don't nap, Billy. So and plus we have like 25 security cameras.
Yeah.
So, but I know you wouldn't.
Enough about your work. Well, listen, we're here to talk about sports. Yeah. Nobody's interested in where you work, Norman. Let's change the tenor of the conversation. Buffalo plays Cincinnati today. I was going to mention to you, and see if you agree. I'm sure you probably. See my rationale, but this is a vital game for Buffalo. For me, the most important thing in the AFC, as opposed to the NFC, in the AFC, you want that first week rest, and you want those 2 playoff games in Orchard Park, New York, Buffalo on the it's not even a frigid thunder, whatever, but you want to play in Buffalo, and you need 2 games to go to a Super Bowl, right? And the only way the Bills do that is if they beat Cincinnati today and they close out New England next week.
Yeah, my gut feel, if nothing else, for whatever it's worth, as good as Cincinnati is proven to be, is that the Bills will get the job done. They seem to be the sort of club. Yeah, sometimes they screw up, or they're a little bit off their game. But it seems to me when they're focused and when they know they have to play to the best of their ability, they get the job done. My gut feel tells me they'll win both those games. In fact, I'll even go so far, Billy. We usually do this at the end of the show, but I'll say I'm going to go with the Bills tonight by 10 points. What do you think?
Bills by 10 in Cincinnati. That's rather ambitious. I concur. I'm on board when it comes. I don't know the exact number, but Bills are a small favorite. I'm on board. And again, for me, here's the deal. When you look at the National Football League and the 1,600 plus players that draw a paycheck from the NFL, practice squad excluded, the number one guy out of those 1,600 individuals, in my estimation, is Josh Allen. He's the best player in the league. The best player in the league, hands down, is the most dynamic player. And the only question you got to ask yourself is you want him to limit his mistakes. You know, he's prone to turnovers. But again, for me, it's so Buffalo, Dallas, Leafs, all these clubs, it's so fan bases have been hurt so many times, especially when you're talking about Buffalo. I was talking to this guy today. I don't know. I just picked up a conversation. Just someone was in the store or what have you. And we're talking. Oh, George's Chicken. Shout out to George's Chicken, downtown Toronto, Sherburne and Dundas. Anyway, so we're talking a little shop, a little football, and he said it, and he said it perfectly. He goes, I just feel funny. Something bad's going to happen to the Bills. Something bad's going to happen to the Bills. And he couldn't put his finger on it. And that's the feeling that I get too, man. And until that final whistle's blown and they hoist a world championship, you're going to feel that to the bitter end in Buffalo, right? You've been snake bit 10 times over when it comes to the history of Buffalo sports, right? So all Bill fans are nervous as can be, right? And it's just the way it is.
Yeah, I think the fans are, but I think sometimes, you know, myself included as fans and then the media, you know, that talking point is brought up just as it is for the Maple Leaf players. But let's face it, between the Maple Leafs and the Leafs, 20 years of failing to get to the second round or almost 20, and the Bills with their previous Super Bowl history. I mean, none of these guys who are playing now were even born then. It's like a footnote. I saw the highlights years ago or something. Like they're not thinking about it. We are, or the fans and the media.
Hold on. They say they're not thinking about it, and yes, some of them weren't there when you're talking about the Leafs. Obviously, some of them were, most of them. But there's also a psychology, man. There's also something between the ears, man. At difficult times, it's like there's a little voice, and I'm imagining it whispers, and it's like, "Here we go again," or "Damn." Like you look at Buffalo from the wide right to the Tennessee, the miracle in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Jesus, leave me, man. They keep bothering me, these people. I still don't have no money. Leave me alone, man. Stop buying. I thought the slate was clean in the new year, man. All debts are canceled. I guess that's not the case. You look at Buffalo history. You just expect it to happen. I don't know how it affects the psyche of a player, but
yeah, but you even mentioned yourself. So let's say, you know, most people would agree, or, you know, Josh Allen, let's say everybody agrees, best player overall in the National Football League. I can't imagine that someone at his level is, okay, let's say he throws a pick, there's a fumble, something, there's always adversity in every game, no matter you're the best team or what, the second best, it happens, right? But I can't imagine that a guy who's got to the level where he's at and excelled at every level, and look where he is now, I can't imagine he's like, oh, yeah, wide right. Like, I just don't think that even tweaks in his mind. It's more like, okay, what can I do to fix this up to the next set of days?
All right, maybe it's beyond his control. Maybe it's destiny. You know, any world champion in any sport, if you look back in their journeys, there was a moment in time where they needed to catch a break. Like, just off the top of my head, there was a Capitals team down 2-0 in game 3, overtime. A guy hits a post, they go on to win a cup. There's always a moment like that in any journey, right? And for any time that moment happens, like for Toronto, especially when we're talking about hockey, that moment, Austin Matthews, game 6 against the Habs, he scores in overtime instead of hitting the crossbar. Maybe the Leafs go on to win a Stanley Cup and the whole narrative's changed. It's just that initial hurdle when there's that little moment, when there's that moment in time. You look at Dallas and Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers making probably the most unbelievable throw in the history of professional football down the sidelines on 4th down for 40 yards. It's just those little things seem to go against certain clubs all the time. Jesus, well, man. They don't stop here. Go ahead.
was that Rodgers calling you? Not Aaron. Was that
Rodgers? That was in order. Rogers, American Express, and, you know, Capital One. Everybody's got a Capital One card, right?
Oh, yeah, so do I.
In order. Bing, 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 man. They wait till I get on here, man. I think maybe because I changed addresses, and I haven't changed where my mailing address is. I want to stay low-key for a little while. Well, you know, I'm even thinking about changing my phone number and what have you. So maybe they see me on... Maybe they see me on air, man, and start calling. I'm going to have to look into this phone number.
Well, Billy, I got a great idea. We'll just divert for a second. Like, here's something. Why don't you put them on the air? Tell them they're on the air. And by the way, in exchange for my bill, we're giving you free advertising. So how about we cancel each other out? How's that? You buy their credit card or whatever they're selling you, or Rogers Cable, and and say, yeah, thanks for calling, and you got a free plug on the show, so let's forget about this bill. We'll do the next one. But anyway,
you think that can fly?
What's that?
You think that can fly?
Well, what have you got to lose by trying, right? The worst they could say is something bad, and I don't think they will. But anyway, they'll probably say no. But it's even if it's Billy, what would be the odd? Give me your Vegas odds on that. 1 in a million or less than that?
I am a very convincing individual when I want to be, and somewhat charming at times. I don't know. I lay about 75 to 1 that I could work something out, but obviously I'd have to speak with somebody other than the representative, right? You have to transfer me through to management, and then maybe we can work something out. You never know, right?
Yeah, that's true. All right. So, okay. So anything else?
I used to call the dealer at 5 a.m. without money, and I was pretty good at that. Anyways, let's not talk about that, man. Norm, it's a family show. I don't want to get into some of my previous exploits. So you like Cincinnati by 10 points, you said, or Buffalo by 10?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. Buffalo by 10. And, like I say, when they're on a mission, they're almost unstoppable. So they'll be on that mission tonight.
All right. Speaking about missions, we started out this season, and here, before we get to the God's team, Norm's team, the beloved Maple Leafs, are you surprised at all in the season to this point in time in terms of the Boston Bruins, in terms of how dominant this team has been for the extended period of time in which it's been dominant? For me, it's when you look at the 4 major sports, for me, this is the most shocking club in all 4 sports. Maybe Jacksonville coming in second, New Jersey in third, and what have you. But weren't we at the beginning of the year, especially yourself, obviously? I don't know if you'll care to. Weren't you the one that said Boston's looking terrible? They had that incident with the kid and the bad publicity in terms of signing him and some of the offseason moves. Didn't we all?
I brought that point up.
Hold on, I'm talking. Let me get a word in here.
Yeah.
You know what, Rumack, hold on. Here's what I'm thinking, a little bit off topic. I don't think you respect the Greek sports acumen. I don't think you respect my knowledge.
Why do you say that?
I think, you know what the truth is, Norm Rumack? I think deep down in your soul, your pedigree, Syracuse, I think deep in your soul, right, that you think and believe that Roger Lajoie is better than the Greek in terms of delivering a sports content. I believe that to be the case.
No, Roger, excels at a lot of things. Don't forget he worked in junior hockey for 30, 40 years. He's one of the official scorers at Blue Jay home games. So he's got a lot going for him. And then you, my friend Billy, as you say, you've shown that you can do it in terms of better at odds making than a lot of those overhyped services in Las Vegas. So you're both strong in, different areas.
Yeah, but you're better looking? Hold on. Who's better looking, me or Lajoie?
I'll leave that up for the ladies. That's not my boat to row, Billy, if you don't mind. I'll just, you're both, handsome guys in your own right. Yes. So no, but you're both pretty good. You're both good fellas. I've known Roger since I was a volunteer. How do you like that? I was a volunteer with the Toronto Marlboro Juniors in 1986 to 1989. How do you like that, Billy? Went there every weekend during the winters for 3 years, and I did all the ultimate Joe jobs, photocopy paper, got coffee and donuts for the media and the hockey staff. How do you like that for a humbling experience? But I did get a Marlboro's junior hockey sweater out of it and a Marlboro's jacket. And I got to become friends with people like George Armstrong, God rest his soul, and other people. So it was well worth it, I had a nice 3 years there. And I also worked in the box office at the Garden, 77, 78. Doug Laurie Sports.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. Is this a segue into your Philadelphia story?
Well, Billy, I love it. You want to hear it?
Get out of here. We don't have time, man, to go back to the spectrum. Norman, so obviously getting back to the Boston Bruins, are you surprised? I'm sure you were like everybody else. You weren't that high on Boston coming in. There's other guys here. Hold on. even our producer, our esteemed producer, Jordan Larache, knows his hockey pretty well. He was down on the Bruins. Kerry Goulet, head coach of a Tier 7 Australian team. Love you, Kerry the Gooch. He was down on, everybody was down on the Bruins. Are you surprised at all that they've excelled to this degree for this extended period of time?
Yeah, I'm surprised, but I wasn't like down on. I was saying at the start of the year, they're kind of like retooling on the fly. And over you look at them, Billy, over the last 10 years, and they won the cup. Was it 2011? I get that right? And I think that's the right year, 2011. So they, sometimes clubs can win a cup, and then they got like Chicago did after a few cups. It was 3 actually. Then, the salary cap problems kick in and you got to retool and rebuild on the fly. So I thought maybe the Bruins would go through a little bit of retooling. But, if you look at the players they bring in from junior hockey in college, let me ask you this, Bill. I'll turn the question back on you. When's the last time the Bruins had a bad or awful team? I can't even remember. Do you? I can't honestly remember.
I can't. I don't. You'd have to go way back. And again, even if you go back, you're going back to Cam Neely. You go back a little further, Ricky. Yeah. They've always had good, and they're in. And for a lot of people, myself included, thought that finally this was the turning point when we were doing some of the preseason hockey where Patrice Bergeron hadn't committed. There was a lot of talk about aging in the back, and they've just been, to this point in time, unbelievable. But right on their neck, Norman, well, not necessarily on their neck, but in the neighborhood, are your Toronto Maple Leafs, Norm. And are you surprised at the quality of hockey in Toronto to this point in time, given some of the injuries and more specifically to Morgan Riley and some of the issues tending net early in the year? Are you surprised that the Leafs have played as well as they have? And furthermore, one last one. Are you surprised that William Nylander actually looks like an NHL player this year?
Well, isn't that a better question for you?
Yeah.
Come on, Billy. You're his biggest hero, so to speak. Maybe not, but no. Anyway, you gave him some credit. He's certainly got high level of skill, and maybe he was motivated by the fact
by this guy here. You think he watches the show?
Well, why not? I mean, what's he got to lose?
If somehow he watches the show, honest to God, if I seen him about, like, I don't know, a year and a half ago, I might have just attacked him, dropped the gloves with him, whatever. But I'll shake his. I give him the respect he deserves. And finally, and this is all that, again, Maple Leaf fans, this is all you want, an honest effort by somebody that looks like they're committed to the team, committed to the game, and showing a level of intensity for the pursuit of something that's special to each and every Leaf fan, and that's the Stanley Cup. We haven't seen this level of intensity. The skill set, as you mentioned, was always there, right? Kid can skate, kid can shoot the puck, he's somewhat creative. But this year, he's played with a level of intensity and compete that has been missing for the better part of his 5 years. And I could ride the guy to death, but when you see this, obviously you gotta point it out. I can't criticize the guy, and I can't say that I'm not seeing this, right? I'm not a spiteful man, Norm. I don't even know the guy. But if I did, I'd kind of ask him. I'd be curious to know what happened to you over the off season, because you look like a different man in comparison to the guy you were. What happened? Did you fall in love? Did you do this? Did you mature? Did you finally get a little bit upset? What happened to you? Why the difference in your demeanor? Because hold on, I'm talking. This is important stuff the fans want to know. So you got to ask a guy, hey, man, why are you responding in this fashion? Why did you slam a stick against the wall a few weeks ago? We've never seen you do that in 7 years. What's got into you, man? And hopefully, if it's me that got into you, God bless you, man. I bring out the best in people.
Well, as much as I love you, Billy, I'm going to take a wild guess that probably he had a conversation maybe with some of his Swedish peers back home, maybe some of his Maple Leaf teammates, or maybe between Sheldon Keefe and Brendan Shanahan. There's always, every team in professional sports, Billy, has exit meetings. Whenever whether it's regular end of the regular season, if they're out of the playoffs.
If you don't finish this sentence, I'm going to give you an exit meeting after the show.
Yeah, well, okay, fair enough. But no, they have exit meetings, and it's a chat with the coach or the coach and GM. And, it's basically like your report card. And maybe there was stuff that was said in there between Sheldon and Brendan about, look, William, here's how we see you at this point. We've given you a nice big fat contract. And, I'm guessing there might have been a heart-to-heart chat there. Or maybe even was, like I say, some of the folks he's he's been coached by or played with, or some of his NHL peers from Sweden. Maybe someone kind of like, hey, buddy, you want some advice? I'm going to give it to you straight. I'll bet you there was a conversation with some or a few people that happened that kind of got a lit a fire under him.
I'd like to. I wish we can get him on the show one day. I'd like to know, because when you watch him play hockey this season specifically, the word soft does not enter the equation. He does not. The guy, to his credit, is not. Obviously, he's not. He'll never be Wendell Clark. He'll never have a physical component to his game. But you don't look at him and you think he's soft this year. And again, kudos to him. Kudos to the Leafs. I think the core four especially has outperformed their own expectations. You've rode this season with a mismatch of back end guys. You brought in a guy from Arizona, turned out okay. The kids are playing. So the question is, given the success to this point in time, does that change the Leafs' philosophy in terms of taking a big swing at the trade deadline? Can you be fooled again and believe that you have enough internally to compete for a cup as is?
Well, I mean, at least from what I've come to learn from a lot of hockey executives, is you never stop looking to improve your team, whether you're the incumbent, like the Colorado Avalanche, or you're trying to climb back up to prominence, that the Red Wings used to have. I don't know that they'll make the playoffs. I mean, they still got a shot, I suppose. All those teams, everybody wants to improve, and a smart, I can't remember, it was Cliff Fletcher, somebody, one of the executives I got to know, or Jim Devellano from the Red Wings, told me, and every GM goes along with this, that you never, it's a figure of speech, of course, you never fall in love with any of your players. In other words, there's nobody who's that, I mean, they traded Gretzky, right? They can trade Gretzky, then anybody can be traded. So you never get to the point where, is anybody untouchable? Sure. But if they make you one of those once-in-a-lifetime offers that you can improve your club, then you got to look at it. And the smart GMs don't get too attached to anybody. It's always a question of, how many people remember what the conversations were like when Wendell got traded in the summer of '94? Yeah. Turns out, to the credit of Cliff Fletcher, look who we got. They got how many years of service out of Matt Sundin? Like 10 at least? I mean,
fair enough. Hold on, but the question is not necessarily getting better. Obviously, you want to get better. The question more specifically is, given the success of the club to this point in time, would you be less inclined to swing big? Obviously, they're going to make an addition of some kind, one would assume, but would you be less inclined to swing big we've been talking about right-handed D-man in Toronto for the better part of the last half decade. Would you be less inclined to swing big, given what you've seen from guys like Liljegren, Sandin, Timmins, and the like? Have they instilled enough confidence in you where you tweak instead of pull a heavy?
No, because from what I've seen, a lot of clubs that were a player away from a Stanley Cup, or a couple players, adding guys who've won it, who've got experience, who've coped with all the highs and lows that come your way, like several times a game, several times a period, several times a shift. As much as the young players have really done a nice job chipping in and covering for the injury problems the Leafs have had, I still think that can make a huge difference. I'm not talking about guys who are like the end of their rope, but just someone, can take a few shifts, whether it's a forward on a third or fourth line, or, another D-man, the third pairing, or even second pairing sometimes. Guys who've seen everything there is to see and can calm a team down, either on the ice, on the bench, in the dressing room.
Hold on. Now, good point. Obviously, you need that. But can those guys you're talking about, given the fact they're maturing into men, be Marner, Matthews, and Nylander? Can those be the guys? Can they turn into the guys, given the fact they're not kids anymore? Can they be the guys, or can they create their own legacy and be those guys?
Well, they've got enough skill to get by, but I still think even guys like that can benefit from someone. Because let's face it, your top players, they get checked into the ice and into the boards. It's like, that's why we always talk about you need your third and fourth line to chip in, right, Billy? Because your top players are going to be shadowed. They're going to have someone from the other team basically like climbing right into their socks. They're not going to let them alone. They're going to hit them hard, hit them extra hard, try and get a few extra cheap shots in. So that's why you need contributions, and that's from your third and fourth line. That's also why you need someone with that cup experience, someone who's won it, to talk to even Marner and Matthews. Not about their skill, but just coping with what's going to come.
Yeah, what do you want to talk about, Norm? How you? Fred, that's a little bit overrated. Here's what I'm going to tell you. All right, talk, explain situations. All that stuff in my estimation is a little overrated. Here's what you need. Here's what Dubas needs to find. We're going to get to the Costa Classic after this thought, and Rumack's not talking anymore. I'm going to finish off this segment. Take a sip of your tea, Rumack. I'm going to tell the folks exactly what you need. What you would like to do. Pay attention, Norm. What you would like to do is, when you're looking back after the first round of this year's playoffs, what ideally you'd like to happen if you're a Maple Leaf fan is look at a couple of trade deadline acquisitions that helped make the difference to get you over the hump. You want to have this year's Nick Paul. You want to be a visionary. You want to bring in a guy that's going to have an impact moment in the playoffs and maybe change the tenor of the series in your favor. That's what you want to do. So this is all about pro scouting. This is about finding a Nick Paul, a diamond in the rough, finding somebody to be able to plug in as your 8th, 9th, 10th, maybe 5th or 6th defenseman that's a difference maker for a moment in time come playoffs. And if you find that guy, just like Tampa Bay found Nick Paul last year, if Nick Paul said 100 times it's not on Tampa Bay, Toronto wins that series, and who knows how destiny is written. It's that simple. So you find a guy, you bring him in. And again, that's one area where the Leafs historically, in terms of their late season acquisitions, you brought in Foligno, you give a first round pick, and the guy was a dud. He got hurt, didn't play. So we're going to have an interesting conversation at the trade deadline. But for the meantime, Norm, we got to 7:38. We don't want to go this long. Car's still running outside. Want to get to Mohawk. So let's get to this week's Costa Classic. And on the flip side, we're going to give the Raptors and the potential exodus of Nick Nurse about 5-6 minutes. Costa Classic, Carpets for Life. Be right back.
Smith. Mortals in, and Matt kicked Haley to the outside. A rock and roll dance, and Peter Wren. They're into the stretch for the 2012 Cleveland Classic. They're off into pacing. Bolt the Doer comes off the car with the lead. Pet Rock is there on the inside, racing an early second as they go in and around the first turn. It's Thinking Out Loud, who's now in early third. Racing over there fourth comes Rockin' Finish. Then you'll find Mortals in. A rock and roll dance is the trailer going out of the first quarter. And Pet Rock out of the pocket does come on to get the lead. Bolt the Doer is in their second opening quarter in 27-2. It's Thinking Out Loud is pacing in third. In fourth is Rockin' Finish. Then it's Mortals in. And a rock and roll dance rounding the turn. Pet Rock now feeling some heat on the outside. Here comes Thinking Out Loud and David Miller. Right there is Bolt the Doer watching the action from third. Rockin' Finish is racing fourth as they pace onto the half. Thinking Out Loud is trying to clear. Thinking Out Loud is there in 54-4. Pet Rock is now in second. Bolt the Doer is now in third. Racing fourth as they round the turn. Rockin' Finish. The last two are Mortals in, and a rock and roll dance as they round the turn to the backside. Thinking Out Loud now kicks away by 3. Over their second is Pet Rock. Bolt the Doer is racing third. In fourth comes a Rockin' Finish as they go to three quarters. Thinking Out Loud is there in 1:22-1 to the final turn in the Cleveland Classic. Thinking Out Loud by 2. Pet Rock is their second. Bolt the Doer is showing headway. From the outside then is Mortals in. Inside Rockin' Finish as they move to the top of the stretch. Thinking Out Loud turns first. Bolt the Doer is coming at him on the outside. Passing lane for Pet Rock. Bolt the Doer on the outside strikes the front, and Bolt the Doer wins the Cleveland Classic. Pet Rock second. Thinking Out Loud and Rockin' Finish 151.
By now, you know the name COSA TV, an industry leader producing unique, high-quality digital content promoting harness racing in Ontario. Features, virtual programming, live events, and more, COSA TV has it covered. Follow our social media channels and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page to view the latest content. And if you're looking to bet your favorite Ontario track, check out hpibet.com. COSA TV, taking Ontario racing global.
Welcome to Carpets for Life. For over 30 years, we have been servicing both residential and commercial clients in the sales and installation of custom stair runners on wall-to-wall areas. Our team prides itself in honesty with a regard of professionalism and customer satisfaction. Our many testimonials and continuous referrals is a testament of the quality of workmanship we provide. We strive to ensure a happy customer is a Carpets for Life customer.
All right, we're back. So thanks.
Hold on, Rumack. Hold on.
Yeah.
Those are some good people, eh? Want to wish everybody, and I'm talking about everybody, Mr. Bill O'Donnell, lovely Kathy Bowden, all the good people at COSA, the Central Ontario Standardbreds Association, the best of New Year's, a prosperous 2023, and your continued support of not only what it is that we do, but just your presence in the harness community at large. So just applaud you, and we really thank you guys for everything that you do for us, and wish you nothing but the best moving forward. And as for the Mayor of Carpets, he's a piece of work, that guy, man, and he's really crafty at what he does, man. He's not doing too good, Norm. Like over the last, no, he's not doing too good. He's a Montreal Canadiens fan. The poor fuck, excuse my language, the poor bastard. had to watch Washington pop 9 goals on him. They've been getting blown out left, right, and center. So it's another year for La Gloria in terms of making some kind of impact. It's going to be a long month in La Belle Province or Rumack. Poor bastard, man. But he's still a good guy. He'll survive, man. He'll survive.
Oh yeah, no, they are great people. Obviously, Nikki, King of Carpets, and COSA. I've always mentioned, I've worked with the Standardbred folks when I was on the air at the fan at Woodbine. So just first class people, really nice, and they go out of their way to keep their customers happy. With the dining facility, with the races, helping out with wagering if you're so inclined. So it's a complete package there for sure at any of your favorite tracks. Also a shout out to our buddy that's been on the show a few times. I'm going to bother him to come in again. Randall Waples got the full-time job as the commentator for the harness pre-games. For those of you that follow and are interested, he's awesome. He's got a sharp mind and a really great guy. Congratulations, Waples. We'll see you. We'll see you in short time. As for short time. Nice segue, man. I like to do. God, am I good at this, man? I'm like a natural. Who'd have thought that a guy of my caliber, man, a city slicker, would turn into the best sportscaster in the great city of Toronto? It's unbelievable, really, how a guy like me can make it to the top, right? Yeah, wow.
I'm just fascinated. Like, I'm working with a borderline Hall of Famer, man, and I steal the show every goddamn. I'm good. Well, anyway, hold on. Are you still? Let me get a word in, man. I'm trying to finish a sentence for once without being rudely interrupted. Norm Rumack, Danforth University. Norm Rumack. You wouldn't have lasted a semester on Danforth University, man. Get that in your head. Not a semester, man. Would have ran you off the block and out of town within short moments. Speaking of running people out of town, is Nick Nurse on the clock?
Well, I know he's on the clock. I'm not sure if that's the right expression for it. And, I'll take a guess, and of course I could be entirely wrong because it's just a guess. Maybe, and it's a big maybe Messiah Ujiri's just scratching his head. So, I'll tell you what, I don't know if this means anything or not. I don't know if you saw it. I was watching their game with the Clippers, earlier in the week, right? Yeah. And, it was fascinating to me, and I sort of wondered, wow, Norm Powell was on fire. Billy, he looked like an 18-wheeler on the 401 going 80 kilometers an hour. He was unstoppable. His Raptor teammates didn't stop. He just did what he wanted, lit up the scoreboard, was driving the paint like there was no way you could put cars and trucks in front of him. He would have made it to the basket. I just sort of wondered the way that game went for the Raptors and the way the Clippers played. But, Norm Powell really stood out. I don't want to over-exaggerate, but I kind of wonder, I don't know, am I barking up the wrong tree? Is there some kind of chemistry not quite clicking with the Raptors, or am I way off on that?
It's hard. The only way you can decipher what's going on is by what you see on the court. You've seen, and again, it's not necessarily where you question the team's effort, right? I haven't seen a team that's given up on the coach, but there's also a team that with something missing, and you can't quite pinpoint what it is. For me, it's just not enough bullets. And at this point in time, given the roster that you have, even with an addition of some kind, and again, it's hard to get additions without giving somebody up, right? Even with an addition of some kind, you're not a championship club, I don't believe, right? You can pick any club. I don't believe, even if Kawhi Leonard was to come tomorrow and show up in Raptorland, does that make him a title contender? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I mean, if we look back, Billy, at their title in 2019, I mean, we've all said it, and it's not an insult. Not an insult at all. But the question is, and I think it's an easy answer, do they win without Kawhi? And the answer is no.
Yeah, maybe, but hold on.
So I'm just saying they were pretty damn good, but they had that one guy to take them. Call what you want. It wasn't intended to be a rental player, but he had already had his mind that he's going back to LA. I had heard and read, when they were actually playing against the Sixers. And that's not, all due respect to him. He did his job in Toronto. He's a total professional. He couldn't have asked for more. But I'm just saying, it's like, so here's my question back to you. Because of what Kawhi did, and we couldn't have won it without him if we're realistic, do we, for lack of a better term, Billy, as good as the Raptors are and can be, do we overestimate them a bit because what Kawhi was able to do in putting the icing on the cake to that championship? Do we overestimate them a bit? Maybe.
There's a point to be made in your assertion, but here's what I'm thinking, that you don't, basically, when I see a team, they don't have enough bullets. Basically, you don't have enough bullets. Siakam is playing the best basketball of his life, best basketball, complete player, arguably one of the top 10 players in the NBA, and it's still not enough. Freddie Van Vliet's playing, and it's still not enough. So if it's not enough, and these guys are playing, this is not something where you can just tweak it and get to where you want to go and be a top 5 Eastern Conference seed. You gotta. It's closer to being blown up than it is to be tweaked, I believe. I think I'm accurate on that respect.
Yeah. So okay. So we have a guy like Siakam. So what? No, it's not what's missing. What's the difference between having him and then a Kawhi who can do everything, but can carry, like, can Siakam carry a team on his back? And I just don't know. That's what I'm saying. Everything you said is true, but Kawhi could carry a team on his back. Can Siakam now or down the road do that kind of like the same way?
But here's the difference. Kawhi can carry a team on his back, yes, but he also needs supporting characters. And when you take Siakam, the supporting characters, again, Gary Trent Jr., Fred Van Vliet, OG Anunoby, again, those supporting characters on their own, even if you put them on your back, you can't be a championship club with the roster that's being presented right now. So if I'm in Masai's spot, you know what I do? Obviously, the best chip that I have and could demand a king's ransom, given the fact he's playing unbelievable, is Pascal. So if you want to go and pillage another organization and get draft picks for the next 5-6 years and some young players, I'm talking about potentially talking to a team like OKC for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, somebody of that sort, maybe even our buddy Wiggins in Golden State, and some draft picks, and maybe there's a match there, like a Siakam in Golden State to play with Curry and the other guy, what's his name now? Thompson. That would look nice if I'm Golden State. So I don't know. I got a feeling that's going to be very active in terms of the composition of the club come trade deadline time in the NBA. Something's going to happen. Now, what's the likelihood, in your estimation, I'll turn it to you, that the Raptors can turn things around and make noise in the playoffs?
Well, again, I think I'll agree with you. It's contingent on getting the right player. And not only did Masai make a brilliant trade when he got Kawhi, but he had to have the stones, as we say, to give up a very popular player in DeMar, not only very talented, but as you know, and I think people watching know, he's one in the whole history of the Raps going back to their expansion year, 95, 96. We know the list. How many guys have wanted to commit, I want to be a Raptor for life? Well, DeMar, and I think probably Kyle Lowry would have been, but, under different circumstances. But DeMar for sure wanted to be a career Toronto Raptor, and the entire history of the organization.
All right, okay, I understand where you're going.
I'm just saying. So I'm saying Kawhi, Masai would have to give up someone A, very talented, B, very popular, and hopefully he gets the now version of Kawhi, albeit a different player.
All right, I'm going to ask this to you differently, because you should have been a politician. You have a way of speaking for 3 minutes and not saying nothing, man. You're a gifted individual. I'll tell you that. No, I'm listening to you and didn't say a damn thing. Here's what I'm going to ask you. And I want the feds want a concrete answer from the late night vampire, the Olava, the hammer of under heads, the trasher of cheap trash. Did I miss anything? Something with
basket. I forgot. You're a basket cases, Billy. Don't leave that out.
Did you have anything with douchebags?
No.
The dominator. I'm going to give you one. The dominator of douchebags. How's that? Add to your mantra. Okay. So simple. Answer this simply for me, man.
Yeah.
All right. Just pretend I was Roger Lajoie. Give me a little respect. If you're Masai, do you tweak and run it out, or do you break it up? Trade deadline.
Well,
simple.
I wouldn't say break it up, but am I willing to do, like, if I'm Masai, like I did, and move DeMar and get a guy who I think can carry the team, or can get what's missing, chemistry or confidence or whatever, just guy the other team doesn't want to even see or look at. All right, then and Masai's proven he's willing to do it. The question is, we don't know who's available. We don't know what he's willing to give up. Or does Masai see this as, let's say, remember when they won? We've talked about this a zillion times. It's like, he can dine on that championship for, I said, 3 to 5 years. Is he willing to wait another year or two and think that these young guys with more experience will become that team? I don't know what he thinks, but put it this way: even if you add one more stud player, is that enough to take this team to the top, Billy? I don't think so. Not yet.
Yeah, therein lies the question. And again, when you've shown historically, when you look at some of the decisions Masai's made in bringing a championship, he gets the benefit of the doubt in terms of judgments. But again, as you said, his clock is running. It's not an eternal clock. You won a championship, but again, there's a grace period. But I'm feeling that it's slowly coming to an end within probably this year, and then you're going to see some of the negativity coming from the likes of Toronto media pundits such as yourself and Comfort for Nurse and changes again, because you won, but since then you've been rather irrelevant. Speaking of rather irrelevant, that's my partner Stormin Norman Rumack, former voice of the fan. Look at that handsome bastard, man. Look at him, tender age of 80, man, and he still looks like $1 million. Norman, was once again a pleasure to spend a little bit of time with you.
Thank you, sir.
It was and again, thank you to the people that watch this program religiously. Follow me on social media with the NFL picks. Give us some goodies this week. Was 5-2. I'm gonna step up next week, man. It's do or die time. I'm gonna have a video out on Saturday. Norm, any parting thoughts?
Yeah. So I want to know, do you agree with me? Like, bang on. I'm picking the Bills tonight by 10. Do you agree or disagree?
Absolutely. We ride. You're my ride or die guy, Norm Rumack. I don't give a rat's ass, man. If you still like Lajoie more than me, I'm gonna win you over, man. I'm gonna win you over, Rumack. And then when you finally rest, you're gonna look back and somebody's gonna interview, and you're gonna say you're gonna include me in your top 10 all-time partners in terms of
Hey.
sports broadcasting.
Hey,
I'll
Billy,
tell
I'm
you
going to
that.
recommend a place. They're not a sponsor, but here's where you would be the king of kings. We talk about Nikki, king of carpets.
Yeah.
The Pickering Casino. They have like like they do at Caesar's Palace, like a little sports book area.
Yeah.
All TV screens on games all day, all night. You went out there on a Sunday, Billy. It'd be like you'd sports wise, gambling wise, died and gone to heaven. You know what I'm saying? But I mean,
Do
in
they
a good
have
way.
Do they show horse racing too?
Yeah, you just go to the guy who's working there. Can you put this on this? Like, there's like a zillion TV channel. You can watch horse racing and NFL at the same time. What more could you want, man?
I've done that for the last 3 years, man, from the comfort of my couch, man. God bless you. If you're struggling with gambling, Gamblers Anonymous, I might pay a visit. Anyways, Norm, excuse me, pleasure once again on behalf of our esteemed producer, Jordan LaRoche, the good folks at Kosa Carpets for Life, Norm Rumack. I'm Billy the Greek. We'll see you guys, and we're going to be doing it in studio next Monday, 7 p.m. from the Bottom Line, downtown Toronto, 22 Front Street West. Norm Rumack, a stone's throw, a slap shot, a three-pointer away from the Hockey Hall of Fame. See you guys next week. Good care
God
for now.
bless. Good night.